You know, I think when the 6'2" neo-Nazi shoved me up against the wall is when I decided I should delete my Tinder app. Let me back up. My first Tinder date was 2 years ago. She was a flirty redhead named Ashley. We went for coffee once and then she ghosted me. It hurt, but I shook it off. And then I met Sarah. She was a psych major and she was sweet enough, but she dumped me after 2 dates because, and I quote, I chew food like her ex. Ugh, I think I dodged a bullet with that one. And then there was Rachel. That lasted about 3 dates and a handjob before she left me for her ex, who had just made a fortune in Bitcoin. I was sad, but I'm a theater major, so I see your point. The next 3 matches in succession were online only. One tried to get me into Herbalife, one tried to get me into Bitcoin, and one only messaged me to find out if I had any kids. She turned out to be a 47-year-old man from Lansing, Michigan, who was the subject of a true crime podcast. This last match was the final straw. Her name was Alicia. She was the sort of leggy blonde type who would normally never give me a second glance. That should have been a red flag. Anyway, we meet up for coffee, and it's going pretty well, and then she mentions that we should go see her friend who's playing in a band just outside of Medford, and I say sure. Long story short, this turned out to be a biker bar just outside of town. As we entered, it looked like a cross between a hunting lodge and Joe Rogan's green room. There was full of thick-necked men clad in leather and elk heads strung up against the wall. And one thick-necked man in particular had a big honkin' swastika tattooed on his right cheek. This man turned out to be Alicia's boyfriend. Now, to be honest, I don't have any hard evidence that this man was part of an organized fascist group, but let's be honest, tattooing a swastika on your cheek is not the act of an Episcopalian. Now, so far this situation has more red flags than a Chinese warship, and the last red flag was when he said, "Hey Alicia, what are you doing hanging out with this chia pet looking motherfucker?" To which her response was, "I'm hanging out with him because he can eat pussy better than you." Now, even though we hadn't gotten that far, I'm gonna spot her for being technically correct. Even though that's probably more on him than me. Anyway, that's the point where he grabbed me and shoved me up against the wall, which is where we came in. So, I'm about to be publicly disemboweled by this maybe Nazi when I look up and notice the elk head above us is slightly loose. In an act of pure desperation, I start kicking my legs against the wall and, sure enough, the elk head falls, pinning swastika guy to the ground. I don't even wait for reaction. I bolt out the door and don't stop running until I hit Medford! So, to make a long story short, I know, too late for that, I delete Tinder and decide to take some time for myself. You know, eating healthy, taking long walks, catching up on my reading. Okay, so I've mostly been jerking off, but considering recent events, I think the person I trust most to take care of myself is myself.